Welcome to the game of love. It was a beautiful evening. The sun was about to set in the gentle heavenly skies. The waves of the sea lit up by the many colors of the sun. As the sun sunk into the far edges of the sea. Sitting by the ocean, observing this beautiful display of nature, was a saint. The disciple looked at his master, then looked at the sunset. How beautiful they both looked in his eyes. In a melodious tone, his master started to sing. कबीर तू करता तू हुआ मुझ में रहया ना हूँ जब आपा परखा मिट गया जत देखा तत तू. Mesmerized by these words, the disciple in a sweet voice asked the saint, Master, what are you singing? The saint opened his eyes, smiled at his disciple, and replied in a gentle voice, These are the holy words of Sage Kabir. Who was Sage Kabir? Asked the disciple. He was a 15th century mystic, replied the master. Can you explain these words? Asked the disciple. Yes, of course, replied the master. But first go and get me some water in a clean glass. The disciple immediately followed the command of his master. As the saint held the glass in his hand, he looked at the disciple and said, Now go and fetch me some water. The disciple obliged. The saint put some water in the glass and he said, My son, now go and fetch me some sugar. Again, the disciple, without question, got some sugar. The saint put the water into the glass and he added a spoon of sugar and started to stir the sugar in the water. After a few moments, the saint stopped stirring and asked the disciple, What do you see in the glass, son? The disciple was not sure how to answer the question and replied, Master, that clear water no longer looks clear. The water has become cloudy. The saint smiled and started to stir the water and the sugar more rigorously. After a few moments, he stopped and he asked the disciple, Now what do you see? The disciple replied, Master, the water's clean again. The cloudiness has disappeared. What do you understand of this? Asked the master. The saint looked at his disciple, and the disciple was confused. Could you please explain, Master? When you first put the sugar in the glass, what you saw was the sugar had sat at the bottom, replied the master. Then as I stirred the sugar in the water, that sugar started to mix in the water, but it had not efficiently mixed. And the water was cloudy. And then when I stirred the water even more rigorously, the sugar completely dissolved in the water and it vanished. The saint looked into the eyes of the disciple. By stirring the sugar into the water and the sugar are no longer what they were. What was no longer is. They both have become something much more than they were. They have merged into each other. Similarly, my son, the devotee and the divine are like the sugar and the water. Meditation and the service of humanity is the process by which we merge into the divine. During this process, the cloudiness is the disillusionment. That is normal, my son. This state of cloudiness is no more than the agitation of Maya, the agitation of the logical mind. But do not stop. Meditate even more rigorously. Serve your humanity even more rigorously, with more passion, with more resolve, and eventually the disillusionment will settle down. We will no longer be what we were. The understanding of the divine will not be what it was. Both the mystic and the divine simply merge into each other. The two become one. Once this process takes place in the heart of the devotee, that devotee becomes pleasing to the divine. Son, every angle of the devotee, the mind of the devotee, the action of the devotee, the thought of the devotee, the word of the devotee, all become in unison with the divine. As all the colors of the flame, the yellow, the orange, the white, the red, the blue, are all born from the one flame, every aspect of the mystic is reborn from the divine. The whole aspect, my son, of the devotee becomes the living temple of the Lord. The conflict of the heart of the devotee disappears. Now, for the first time, the devotee has awoken and become alert. The devotee has understood the ultimate truth. The devotee develops a different perspective of the world. The spiritual dimension of the devotee, my son, changes. From being someone to become nothing, and then from nothingness, the devotee becomes everything. That, my son, is the process. That is what Sage Kabir tried to explain. The disciple was mesmerized with the words of his master. And his master closed his eyes and went into deep meditation.